AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions. It is crazy how much stuff our computers can do at one time. It is crazy. All right, let me start closing some stuff. Oh, just start closing some things here. So we're getting started here with Ask Gun Questions. Once we see who all shows up, barbecue's out there. Good evening. Let me know if the audio is working okay. I might be here by myself. I didn't get any response from the guys who normally would host with me, and I did send them out a link. So might be here by myself tonight. So if that's the case, we'll answer questions like we always do, only you won't get the perspective from Clover or Tony. You get the perspective from this little puppy here, my co-host, and me. So I was just watching the bullet over here in the background, and we can close out of all that and just give the puppy a nice orange background. I think he likes the orange background. We'll go split screen, orange background and blue background. I've been watching these interviews on the other computer with a lady I found named Carmen Medina. You ever heard of Carmen Medina? She's outside the box thinker who's 30 years at CIA as an intelligence analysis manager. So she managed people who gather intelligence for the CIA. Super interesting, thinking about how to make sure you're not using the information bias. So I think the idea is she keeps using a story of somebody who's looking for their keys underneath a street light. And a cop comes up and says, "What are you doing?" And they say, "I'm looking for my keys." And the cop says, "Is this where you lost them?" And the person says, "No. But this is where I can see." So the idea is not to just use the information where you can find it, because that may have nothing to do with the reality of the information or the use of the information. Kind of interesting. Anyway, that and some other things got me off guard here today, got off schedule, and we're starting up. So I've got something generating in the background. It says it's going to take about 7 minutes, so I'll quit looking at it, because they say about watch pot doesn't boil. I'm assuming a watched video doesn't render also. So, I knocked the puppy over. I rubbed the puppy's side of his belly long enough that he fell over. So now he's fallen over, and I apologize to the people who understand, who know that you're not supposed to put dogs on videos. It must be horrible for those people to watch these videos where I always have a dog in them. It's horrible for them. I am opening up the, what's it called? The spreadsheet over here. Do you want to watch the spreadsheet, or do you want to watch the dog? Let me know in the comments if you want to look at the spreadsheet, which I could easily put up here, or I could just keep showing this dog right here. Works out pretty good if you put your hand right on his rib cage like this. You can give him a wiggle, and you don't have your hands on anything gross. No gross parts of the dog are touched. He doesn't drool. No drool comes out of this dog. Even if I were to hold a food pellet right in front of him, for whatever reason, this dog doesn't drool. All right. So here's a question from 2017. And I'm just going to start doing this so that everybody can see the questions as we take them out of the deal here. I'll put them up with the Daily Gun Show's logo. Should I be feeling breech flashback on my face when firing a Savage 300 Winchester? What is that? 300? I don't know what WSM. Winchester short magnum, I guess. So should you be feeling something on your face? It is possible to feel something. Now, that's a tough thing to describe over the internet for sure. You may feel something just because there's a pretty quick expansion of gases happening right in front of your face that puts off quite a bit of heat. And some of that's going to emanate, or whatever that word is, radiate off of the barrel towards you. And depending on your experience with that kind of stuff, that may feel like flashback. However, if there's a problem and you're actually getting stuff coming out of the gun, there's some kind of gap or crack or something, that'd be dangerous. That'd be a big deal. Honestly, I think that's something that's tough to describe over the internet. I'm not going to blow it off as saying, yeah. And I'm not going to say, you better get this thing to a gunsmith. I'm going to suggest that's something that's pretty tough to describe without video. Maybe with video and maybe with some thought, we could come up with a experiment or a way to show what's normal or what the range of normal is with blowback or flashback. Technically, depending on the break, you might be feeling something from the muzzle end as well. And depending on your experience with shooting, you know what I mean? You may have different, you may talk about, you may describe that differently. You can tell that he's sleeping because he's got this going on. Pretty soon he'll start wiggling, start running around in his sleep. All right, so we'll go on to just some, if you can feel free, since I'm the only one here today, feel free to put in any kind of random number between, I don't know, let's say 2 and 120, and I'll just pick something random out of there. All right, here's another one. Let's see. Is the Micro Draco, let me grab this question, put it up the screen. Boom. Is the Micro Draco, or any of the Dracos from Romania, used by their police or military? That's a good question, and I don't believe so. I think that they use something called an AIMS, which is kind of like the Draco is the semi-auto version of that, I guess. So because Romania does use semi-auto guns, to answer the question specifically, I don't think so. But they do use they use a full auto version of it. So download to PC. Then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go up to here and add this video clip and see what happens. So we'll see if this thing I was working. Whoa, my goodness. Is that from you? Holy moly. Well, there's a hazard, having them that close to me. That's horrible. Is that from me touching you? Come on, man. You can't be doing that every day. That's horrible. I'm getting rid of this dog. Anybody wants a stinky dog? We got a stinky dog for sale. Am I allowed to sell a stinky animal? It's broken. It stinks. Makes poops. Oh, my goodness. Usually if you're going to see something, if you're going to experience something like that, you're going to see this side get real swelled up and then go boof or something. Like something's going to happen. It may have been the other dog, but she's never done anything that heinous before. Holy moly. It could be that a septic truck exploded in front of my house and a gust of wind came through. Welcome to our Ask Gun Questions podcast series about guns, where we aim to answer your burning questions and provide insights into the world of firearms. Our show is hosted by 3 passionate gun enthusiasts, Clover from Texas, Tony Simon from New Jersey, and me here in Arizona. We all have a wealth of knowledge and experience in the fields. Each Saturday at noon Eastern, we'll be discussing everything from the basics of gun ownership to more advanced topics like firearms maintenance, concealed carry, and the latest industry news. We will also be sharing our personal experiences and perspectives, as well as inviting guest experts to join us for in-depth discussions on specific topics. Whether you're a seasoned gun owner or just starting to explore the world of firearms, Our Ask Gun Questions podcast is designed to be informative, engaging, and entertaining. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for an exciting journey answering your gun questions. Yeah, how does that feel? You just got robot AI'd. You just been AI'd by a robot right there. That was 100% robot, except for the part where I said stuff, which I could have made a robot say that stuff. I just didn't feel like it. Yeah, that's the future of the internet right there. Garbage, bland, wrong BS. Did you see that 1911 with 22 ammo? Like, what the hell? Yeah, that's the future of the internet. Robot, garbage. So you can do that for free. Wow, amazing. You get what you pay for. What best is, oh man, I got to answer questions. Oh, guess what I am now? I'm a solopreneur. I'm a solopreneur. Come on. Maybe this? I don't know. Come on. I'm finish this later. Anyhow, that was a completely generated. This puppy is real. The stuff that came out of this puppy, unfortunately, is real. But the video you just seen, fake. Completely fake. All right. So is the Micro Draco used by the police military? So let's just put that into the Google. See what the Google tells us about it. Makes you wonder how much of the Google is AI. I bet you a lot of it. Looks like in Gun Digest of 2021, they had some kind of a answer to that. Okay, the Draco was derived from the Standard, which was based on the Romanian PMMD-90. PMMD-90. There is no military equivalent of it. It was built from the ground up as a commercial export. So there you go. The PMMD-90, however, I would have called it an Ames back in the day. We're going to open that up in the screen sharing here. Let's bring up Sharon here. Screen Sharon will be joining us. And we'll shove the puppy underneath it here. Don't worry, the puppy's still right here. You don't need two versions of everything, so we'll move this over. And this little thingy, and we can just drag this all, like, close this down. We'll just bring this all over. Pretty cool looking one, right? Looks pretty neat. I always liked it. It was one you couldn't get here, and it was an SBR, so it was a pain in the butt even if you could get it here. But I always thought this would be a cool, oh, come on. You know, putting the dong on the front would be cool. I don't know if they ever did. I just thought it would be cool looking. And then all of a sudden, back in the olden days, they started making the Draco. And here it is. That is pretty neat looking, right? If you like little tiny cool guns that are awesome. So there's another version of it. So essentially the Draco was that without the furred grip, because we can't do that here, and without the folding stock, because we can't do that here. And then you see this thing has all its selectors. So it's not a very effective gun, I'm sure. This, what do you call it? If you look at the way that it works, it's got a full-length gas system. So probably works great for semi-auto or something. I don't know how it works for full auto. But if you look at normal, do we have any pictures of them next to each other? That would be handy, wouldn't it? So here's your typical, your gun goes off. Let's open these up in new windows. And then we'll open this one up in a new window. And then we'll open this over here and open this one over here. Move over, Puffy. We'll move this up. All right, so that we can get rid of and bring this over to here somehow. Drag the corners. That should work. And get back that picture somehow. There we go. All right, so now we got them sitting here next to each other, essentially. So you got your cartridge going off right here and all these expanding gases happening, right? No big deal, except that your gas block is like a moment away from your muzzle. So normally your expanding gases happen back here, they expand and they travel down, they expand, and somewhere in here, some of the gas is diverted, and then you get enough pressure buildup that your bolt carrier starts to travel, right? So this is some kind of calculation based on the size of the expanding gases and the speed at which, you know, the gases are going to flow up through this diameter of tube and fill up this expansion chamber in front of the piston and create pressure on the piston until they hit these little holes here where they start to lose pressure again and expand. So you've got some dwell time, you've got some time here as these pressures expand, build up and start to push. Well, on this thing, the gases are expanding, and just as they're about to hit the barrel and lose all their energy, just expand, blow it out into the air, which means that there's very little reason, there's no back pressure, there's very little reason for any of the gas to go up here and back. So this either has to be timed really interestingly or weighted very interestingly, which they don't do, or they just ignore it. And I'm guessing they just ignored it. It's probably a 90-degree gas block instead of angled, not just because Romania normally had an angle, but not just because of this, but that probably is part of it. But it's also because they put a front sight in there. And usually when you put a front sight on the gas block, it's going to be a 90-degree gas block. It just takes less metal, right, to make. So physically, it's probably had to be this way. I don't know if the engineering adds up. Now, there's another reason that they make these things at a 90-degree versus, or I mean, whatever this is, 60-degree versus a 90-degree gas box, and that these can be drilled and cleaned. This is a little tougher to do anything like that. So I'm not tougher, just different to do that kind of stuff. So, you know, that's the big thing. They look cool or whatever, but knowing how an AK works, is this a good design? Is this, come on, puppy. Is this one a good design? It looks cool, but is it a good design? That's the question. And there's no way to answer that because in reality, nobody shot them enough to know. They just exist. They've never been used for nothing. So anybody that tells you they know is lying. They don't know. Probably not a good design, but you can't know. All right, so now we actually did answer that one. And I think I still have that in my copy, but let's copy that and paste it over here. And that'll be another of the questions that we answered today. I'm going to try to start, since they're not here, to challenge any of my answers. That means all my answers are right. And I got all the time in the world. So I'm going to also make a little list over here of our questions today. Oh, man, not on a spreadsheet, though. Open up a spreadsheet and puppy got all pissed. Look, he jumped up immediately when I opened up a spreadsheet. I wonder if you can train a dog to know if you're using the right app or the right software for the application you're working on. Kind of like if a dog can sniff if you're about to jump over a cliff or something. Like, hey, you're opening up the wrong software, dummy. You could bark or something. All right, so that was the first one, and I have to remember what the other ones are. Oh, I guess I already did have that one out there. Mike saying that Draco looks gangsta designed. I don't know. It definitely looks like what you would want your security guys wearing, like people that are going to be around and they don't want a full rifle, but they also need to be able to immediately stop a threat, not just act like it, but actually immediately stop a threat. So you want real caliber out there for that. You want real ability, real potential, but you also want it to be just a little bit shorter, just like this little dog. He's real potential. He's just a little bit smaller so he doesn't offend people by just his size. All right, so I guess we'll go on to the next one and try to remember to put these things in here. Oh, did we get some questions? I think some people were putting in numbers. Thank you for that. We got 745. That isn't anywhere near the range that we said, but we'll go down here and see. Or are you trying to put in the time of day it is or something? We've already answered 745, but I'll answer it again by myself and it'll be a better answer. So, oh man, where does the term caliber come from? Nobody knows that. I think we did try to look this up, and did we find out? I don't remember. Caliber is the normal inside. Oh man. Comes with no evidence and no background. Far more likely that the word was formed in French. What? All right, so caliber comes ultimately from Arabic, a mold or casting, or in Italian to a some other word. But there's no evidence for that. I wonder where the, like they'll say like there's other words for caliber, like this is of high caliber. I wonder where that comes from. So you've come up with a stumper there. I don't know that one. Blame it on Clover for not knowing. Now we got 76. All right, that's an interesting one. I don't even know if there's enough room on. Holy moly! I don't know if there's enough room in the thing to paste this one. We'll try. I'm gonna try it. It'll probably jump to more than one comment. How many did it go to? Like 3? 1? Oh yeah, 3. Though the 38s can be fired out of a 357, I've heard that the velocity will suffer as compared to a 38 being shot out of one that was made for 38 ammo. I'm not comparing 357 to 38, but a 38 from a 38 compared to a 38 from a 357. Something about venting where the shorter 38 case slows the round through the outer 357 chamber. I've come across chronograph tests where a 2-inch barrel and even a 1 point blah 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 barrel had better feet per second shout out of 2. Sounds fake to me. So I've reloaded 38 and 357 and they're the same cartridge, they're the same bullets. So I can't imagine the guns are that different, if they are. So I don't know. You'd have to defer to somebody who's some kind of reloading or revolver nerd or some kind of person who reloads for revolvers. So that's a good one. That's a lot of question for something very specific. Let's see. But then I realized the 2.5-inch was a 357 revolvers and the guns with shorter barrels were only listed as 38 plus P. Right. Okay, I missed parts of it. Barbecue thinks it comes from the Italian calabrito. I don't know if it comes from a burrito. I guess it's possible that the different diameters of the burrito somehow indicate the size of the bullet or something. So possibly, maybe in the olden days before guns were so common, it would be like the terminology was like, I'm going to throw the burrito or whatever. And then eventually became like, what caliber burrito? And then they were like, I'm going to throw the 38 caliber burrito. And then they were like, all right. And then it just got shortened down to 38. And eventually we got guns and stopped using burritos. That's why World War I was deadly, but ineffective. Dead Horse is still around. He just doesn't show up to these chats, but he's out there kicking. I seen him the other day. Oh, let's see. So I'm gonna just randomly. Or no, wait, did anybody else pick another one? I'm gonna call that a frustrating question. Tony probably could have answered it, but because he's running late, we'll never know the actual answer to that one. All right, the next one is number 18. Anyone have a Hakim muzzle brake? Come on, man. Who the hell would have that? So a Hakim is a cool gun, but as you're about to see, it's a weird old. Oh wait, I guess I wrote all that in there. So still, right? Who's gonna have this? So a Hakim is what, Egyptian or something, and it's a weird SKS looking thing with this. If you think a Garand or a Garand has a bad thumb trap on it, this thing has a crazy mousetrap robot jaw thing that will attempt to eat, I don't know, most of what you got going on if you try to use anything up by the charging handle. It's a weird gun, and it shows you that some people just got no idea what they're doing when they do something, because this is made in Egypt. And I'm trying to find a picture. This is probably the best picture. Ooh. Of its crazy dust cover / chamber. And the whole thing opens, because of course you need to have the whole thing open if you've never used a gun before. And in the desert, why not have a giant chunk of the operational part of your gun exposed to the environment? Sounds great. And then have that all travel on little tiny thin rails that, you know, have intersecting little slots and stuff. Just ridiculous gun. I think people like these old guns because they like looking at the machinery of them, because they're so weird and complicated for no reason sometimes. Sometimes they're effective and elegant and interesting, and they're like, you know, good. This one isn't. So they're not, I guess they're kind of bad made. They're not bad made for Egyptian guns. I've only ever seen maybe 3 of them. I don't look hard for them anymore because they cost way too much. But anyhow, it's a crazy piece of, what do you call it, milsurp, and there are few of them, so they're rare. You don't see them very often, but they shoot 7.62 by 39, so they're super, super cool. Or wait, the Hakim is 8mm, and then the other one is its little brother, shoots 7.62 by 39. So this one is a dumb gun that shoots 8mm, which is a dumb millimeter, and the person is asking about this muzzle brake. So rare gun made in Egypt for a little while, and you want to know a muzzle brake for it. Well, this is what you call a job for a mill. So go learn how to work a mill, and then go, I don't know, measure one of them and then make one. Looks like they made 70,000 of them in the Mahdi factory, but doesn't say when. It says the early 50s and early 60s. It was replaced by the Mahdi AK-47. So it was originally made by Sweden and produced as the AGM-42. And then they sold the stuff to Egypt because they were like, hey, we don't want this giant snow shovel on the top of our gun. Let's sell it to Egypt, and then it'll be a sand shovel. So that's what we call pass in the trash. So trying to get a muzzle brake for that, yeah, not going to happen. It's possible that those 70,000 guns and they made 90,000 muzzle brakes, but I'll bet you they made 70,000 guns and they made 70,000 muzzle brakes. And there's probably a few of those guns that got broke, and then they took the muzzle brakes off to sell them, but that's about the only way you're going to get a muzzle brake off of one, I think. So anyone have one? Probably not. If Tony was here, he's running late, but if he was here, I think he has a bunch of them. But, sorry, he's not here right now. All right, so that was question 18. And, you know, there are numbers being thrown out here for questions, suggestions for questions. We're going to go with 38. 38 caliber burrito is a good brand name. Oh, a band name. Yeah, I guess so. Well, we've already done 38. All right, so we can't do 38. Don't get me started on the assault cannolis. Nobody needs on a cannoli of that caliber. All right, well, so at that point, I'm out of numbers. So feel free to leave some numbers in here, and then that will use those numbers to pick questions. Woods picked number 66. So that one says, this one came in 2017. And here's what it says. I have a 1914 Iver Johnson 38 collectible gun used in World War I. I'm looking to trade it for a High Point 380. Is it possible? What is my value? That's a weird question. All right, so first off, I'm going to act like I already answered it. Let's see. I have a 1914 Iver Johnson 38. And then he says collectible gun for some reason. So that makes me think he's a child or doesn't speak English as his first language or her first language. And now we're looking at this, and this is what we would call, well, some people would call it Saturday Night Special. Other people would call it an inexpensive, low caliber, small framed firearm that shoots a small caliber. It's not the smallest of calibers, so technically it might not be a Saturday Night Special, but most people in 2023 are just going to put it into that category. My guess is that it's worth, $120 or something, but we're about to find out. So it looks like there's two versions, depending on what's going on: the top break or this other version here. Am I allowed to go look at what these things cost? You get kicked off of the internet all the time now with the whole way YouTube hates everybody, hates me specifically. So it doesn't say anything about the price over there. I'm guessing these are like $100 guns-ish. If I'm allowed to say that. I'm talking about a $100 38 caliber burrito. And then what were they talking about? Want to get a High Point 380. Well, you're probably not going to get too many people wanting to trade that. Some people might trade that, but I can't imagine anybody buying a High Point 380, period, because it's a little tiny caliber with a big ass gun around it, and most people ain't looking for that. They're looking for some other combination of mechanics. Hold on, where's my mouse? There's Tony. Oh, wait, hold on. There's Tony. So the question, I don't know if you've been listening. The question is, got a 1914 Iver Johnson 38. That's like a break top revolver, I think. And they're looking to trade it for a 380 High Point. And I'm saying, I don't think too many people buying a 380 High Point are buying that for much use other than to save money, because that's a economy gun. It's not a gun that does anything else except save you money compared to something else. So if somebody does that to save money, they're probably not just bored and collecting them. I guess it's possible that if you found somebody that bought a 380 and then has 10 more guns and never bought a revolver before, all right, I'm changing my... At first, I guess I was thinking of somebody who's carrying their 380. There's no way they're going to change that to a 38 unless they had some kind of bad experience with it. But I guess it could be possible. As far as price, I'm guessing that the High Point has a little bit more value, but not I don't know what they cost new, but probably not a heck of a lot as a used one. Anyway, I'll shut up. Tony, I don't know if you heard it. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Tony's joining us from New Jersey. I'm assuming you're in New Jersey. And,
actually, the reason I'm late, I'm actually in the state of Pennsylvania. It's SIG Range Day at the Heritage Guild. So I was just there with the guys from SIG and just did an interview with them with their new SIG Spear in 308. They have a SBR version here. So I just did an interview with them, and that's what I was doing. And I realized, yeah, I have to get in there. I've got to get on air. So I bounced out of there. And look, the 380 High Point is the same size as their C9. So it's a whole lot of gun to be launching 380s. And if that's what you want, that's what you can get. But it's a hard gun to conceal. It doesn't have controls like most guns. It doesn't have a slide release. It just locks back on an empty magazine. And that's the only way you can actually lock the slide back, except you can use the safety to lock the slide back. And if that's what you want, go ahead and get it. With that Ivor Johnson with the World War I heritage, I'm sure you can probably get someone to pay over $200 for it because your high point is going to be under two. Your high point is probably going to be anywhere between 150 and 170.
Yeah, that's what I figure. And I figure the revolver is probably like 120-ish.
Yeah,
if you can get
and
much for it, like from somebody who's never had one. I think somebody that's got one is going to value it less than somebody that's never had one because they're not that great. Once you have them, you're like, oh,
yeah,
they're a lot cooler than they are. They're not super fragile. They're just not that fun. I mean, they're kind of fun, but you can tell as soon as you own it. It's just like the high point. Like as soon as you have it, you're like, oh, okay, this isn't quite like a fine. You know, it's like when you get in your go-kart and you're like, oh, this isn't a BMW. I mean, it's just, it's a vehicle. It's going to get you places. It's just not the same. So most people that get those revolvers aren't thinking, I'm getting another one.
Your Ivor Johnson revolver is the early 1900 equivalent of a high point.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So that's what you're doing. If you really want a 380, check out Ruger's 380 Max. I mean, there's other 380s you can get if you want a 380 that are in a decent price range. I don't remember if Taurus sells any of their G3, G4 stuff in 380. I'm not sure. But I mean, that's the price point between 2 and 250. And I'm thinking, yeah, you can probably get a Ruger there. You can probably get some used guns in that price point. That'll be more ergonomic. Will have better magazines than high points, and you'll probably will definitely be lighter than a high point. And have probably, if you want to be one of those guys, it might even have a pick rail on it that you can actually mount a regular light to, because high point does not have that. If they have one, they have their. I mean, they just came out with pick rails on their guns with this latest generation of 10 millimeter. And yes, I'm a high point fan. I'm friends with the people in the company, but I wouldn't suggest that as your first stop in the 380 semi-automatic pistol journey.
It's good for like if you got a bunch of 380 or you're a fan of 380 and you're looking for another 380 or
it's your tackle box.
And you need another. Yeah, exactly. Like
it's your tackle box 380. It's your farm 380. It's your secondary. I mean, there's a point to it. I'm not going, ooh, it's cooties. But yeah,
it's like the tools that you get at the hardware store or at the Walmart. They're not professional tools that a professional is going to use on a daily basis, but they'll get you by for the home mechanic, potentially, definitely for the emergency here and there.
No, it'll definitely work. The fixed front sight. It has adjustable rear sight. It has a fixed barrel, so it's inherently more accurate than something with a tilting barrel. It has a thumb safety, and it has a lifetime warranty for the lifetime of the firearm.
Well, that's a good point too. If you're talking about something like that, the one gun, the revolver, hasn't existed in like 100 years or more, and then the other one is a thriving business. It still exists with a warranty on the gun, not the purchaser. Okay, so big question is, what happened to Clover? Is he never doing the show again? Did something happen? Is he against guns now? Did he oversleep? Is he drunk? Nobody knows. Let's see. So we got a question. Feel free to answer. Best answer might win something. We'll see. What happened to Clover is the question. We'll see if anybody wants to answer that one. This one came in February. I'm looking to purchase a firearm in a different state, but have it sent to the state I live in. What will be the process?
Depends on how you do it and what you're doing. So if you're physically in the other state and it's a long arm, you can purchase it there, as long as it falls within the rules of your state's, your state's firearm laws.
Yeah, federally, you can go and buy a long gun anywhere and take it home. except for there's a few states, essentially the states that we all know, but you could double check. There's a few states that say, nope, we are going to say, as a resident of this state, you cannot go to another state and buy a long gun. And that's only a couple of states, but that's what Tony's saying. There's just most of the time you can just go buy a long gun and take it home, except for those couple of states. So we're, if you're in one of those states, more than likely. But
No,
go ahead.
yeah, and for a handgun, one, you're going to have an FFL in your state be willing to receive the gun. You're going to have to give that information to the gun shop, gun store that you're purchasing the gun for, and then they have to send it to their state. Your FFL will charge you a transfer fee, and that can be anywhere. And the state probably has a transfer fee that they charge too for the paperwork. And I've seen them up to $100 that the actual gun store or the FFL charges, because they're trying to encourage you to buy the guns in their store, and they want to make money on it somehow, so they'll get that $100 from you. And again, it depends on the state, because I've seen my guy charges $25 here in Jersey for something like that. And that's the process, man. Whatever the process, once it gets in your state, is whatever the process purchasing a firearm is in your state, and the fee that the FFL charges.
It's a good point about the fees. And one of the things about being friends with your gun shop, we used to say this all the time on the show, in the Daily Gun Show back in the day, especially when we were traveling, is to make friends with your gun shop and, bring them donuts, get them pizza, bring them sandwiches, whatever that is that they dig or they like. Sometimes getting people one of them things of coffee in the morning, bringing in a thing of coffee for them and letting them have it, or have it there for the customers or something, just things you can do to show appreciation that they're a gun shop in business on our side, keeping a piece of the industry viable in your town. Then when there is something, then you have transfer, maybe you get a better rate, or, you can, lots of different ways to be in their good graces, or find the shop in town that, that appreciates your business, or that, appreciates whatever it is you offer. You might be a content creator, and if you're doing stuff on the regular that promotes their shop, maybe in return they get you some transfers and stuff. Maybe it's an incentive to be a content creator, right? So that you can help shops motivate and get out there. And one of the ways they can help you say thanks is to give you a rate or something on these. It's always easier to get a rate on a service than it is on, like, getting a discount on a product, which they have to, in order to exist, they got to make money on.
And also, if you're looking for something specific and it comes in, you might get a phone call before it even goes out on the floor. So that's one of those things. My FFL hooked me up, mainly because he did work in Pennsylvania also. He knew I was looking for a 38 357 to teach people with who may not want a semi-auto, couldn't work the slide on a semi-auto, and he knows it's going to be for diversity shoots and for my regular firearms training classes. So he found a Smith & Wesson 686, and he was like, "Hey, Tony, found a deal. It's a great price. Want to come and get it?" Boom, jumped in the vehicle, went over there. I purchased a 686 in Pennsylvania, and since he's my FFL, having to transfer it to him was him leaving with it. He took it back to Jersey. I went there. We ran a background check there too, and I got my pistol. And he did a trigger job on it, just threw it in because he wanted people to be able to use this thing effectively. He wanted a sweet trigger job on it. Because it came for I bought it for a specific reason. I had a customer that was a mature woman of over 65 years old, who was the protector for her home because her husband was significantly older and she was the home defender, but she couldn't work the slide on a semi-automatic pistol, but she could pull the trigger, a smooth trigger pull on a double action revolver. And you have to sometimes see things to understand what we're talking about. And that gave someone a visual. They now knew what I was talking about. They knew what to ask for, and she could shoot the gun. So because of the relationship I had with him, he knew what I wanted. He knew why I wanted it. And when he saw it at a gun store that he doesn't own or anything, he was like, Tony could use that. And that's all because of relationships that you build up. And I got a sweet 686 now. And if you follow my Instagram, you've seen it.
Switching gears to the first question today was, should I be feeling the breech flashback on my face when firing a Savage 300 WSM, which I'm guessing is Winchester Short Magnum, I think?
Mm-hmm. The breach flashback.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what that was either.
Or
at least what they're trying to explain, you know?
I mean, you mean concussion from the muzzle device is one thing. You feeling something from the breech. That's kind of scary. Yeah.
Yeah, that was essentially my answer, that if they're, it's tough to describe, but if they're feeling like some heat generated by the round going off on a giant hunting cartridge inside the metal tube right in front of their face, then, and they're never felt anything get hot in front of them before, then okay, maybe you're describing it as like flashback. But on the other hand, if there's a crack and you're actually getting gas in your face, you need to get to a gunsmith. So I told him, or my answer was, there's no way to know. This is not an alert, go get it checked. And this isn't, don't worry about it. This is, you're asking a question that may or be anywhere between those two extremes. So
yeah,
have somebody look at it, or have somebody at the range look at it, and then maybe test fire it if appropriate. But it's tough.
Yeah,
that's you're using,
that's the answer.
We're using terms that we're not used to hearing.
Yeah, that's an answer between it's probably nothing to you gonna die. So
yeah, and that's too tough to reply. So it's like,
yeah, it's a lot of leeway. Sorry.
And it's and maybe the way to explain it too is it's a caliber that matters. Like if that is a crack in the breech, like a crack in the piece of metal that holds the cartridge together while it, you know, essentially explodes, then that's a big deal. That's like essentially a grenade, because now you're taking those pressures, which typically are constrained by the barrel. So the primer is the only thing that explodes. It explodes and ignites a bunch of gunpowder, which slowly burns. It happens really fast, but it slowly burns. It burns at a prescribed rate, which is highly defined, and like, you know, it's part of the process. So it slowly burns and creates pressure, because nothing could experience the complete pressure of that powder's potential immediately. That's what a cannon is for. Like nothing can handle it fast. So it slowly expands. And that's why a barrel is long, and that's why there's a concern about the size of the barrel and the size of the bullet, because if it plugs the barrel, then you're in trouble. It creates an explosion. So, you know, the explosion is from constrained gases. You're allowing those gases to expand. So I guess that's the concern. We're talking about a 300 Winchester short Magnum, which is a lot of powder with a 30 caliber bullet, which is sort of like a wine bottle. It's like a lot of powder with a little tiny bullet coming out of it. It's, you know, not tiny, but smaller bullet than the powder. And if that thing has a crack in the chamber, then it's got more incentive to explode through the crack than it does to push the bullet down the barrel. Now it's an explosive thing with your face right in the other end of it. On the other hand, that's a lot of expanding gases creating a lot of heat in essentially a metal tube an inch from your eyeball. So if that gets hot really fast and you're not used to having something hot, that's what I said. Like if you're not used to that, then that might feel like something's going on, but it might just be like if you had your face near an engine, it's going to get hot real fast too.
Yeah, especially if it's a semi-auto. Because I was thinking bolt action the whole time with 300.
I'm thinking of bolt action too, yeah.
But yeah, if it's a semi-auto and you're a lefty shooting something with the right hand, right side ejection, yeah, you're gonna feel that.
Oh, and then yeah, Mike said the same thing, so that's a good point. I wasn't even thinking of it that way. So Worthwhile Fun said Clover got tired of the dog getting more airtime than him, so he's snubbing the dog. That could be. It could be. He's super jealous of puppies, I think. And he's never actually said he agrees with me that I think you can have dogs on video, obviously, but I've been told that you don't want to have dogs on video. And Clover has never actually said he doesn't like or he likes. I don't know. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's some dog thing. So the next question is: did the Ruger M77 Mark II ever have a problem that made scope rings not line? I'm guessing line up. Huh. I haven't heard of anything, but I don't. Oh wait, do I have an M77? Made the scope rings not line up or not be in line. I'm not sure the question. Have you ever heard of a Ruger M77 having an issue though?
I've never heard of a Ruger M77 having an issue, but I mean, Ruger will have it on their site because they put all of their issues on their. They don't hide them. I mean,
Yeah.
they put them right out there, especially for something like our M77, which is very popular Ruger gun, Ruger rifle. So check some forums that are actually, I mean, because they're not going to BS. It's not like it's a tactical gun and those guys blow smoke up your butt all the time. Usually on something with a Ruger M77, you're going to find the truth from people that actually shoot it and own them.
So I guess the M77 was popular, and then in 1991 it was brought back. It was retooled and brought back as an M77 Mark II. It was designed by Jim Sullivan, an American firearms inventor. He designed several scaled-down versions of larger guns. So I guess he developed that for Ruger during his time with them, and it's the traditional Mauser-style two-lugged bolt. Let's see, it was a modernized Mauser 98 through numerous changes. They changed the metallurgy or the way that they build the thing, I guess, to make it better, I guess. Perhaps, let's see, does it say when it was created? In 1968, and then it was upgraded in 92 or 91 to be the Mark II. And that's the one we're talking about. So I just looked around a little bit while Tony was just talking, and I saw a couple of things here, and it says something to the effect of never heard of any issues that stopped its production. So when they talked about why did the Mark II stop production, just looking at some of the forum stuff, doesn't say that anybody that it was changed for any reason other than to be different. Sometimes when they make a new version, they want to be different. So it was reintroduced and retooled, substantially redesigned. The bolt face was opened up to allow controlled feeding, and I don't know if these things are actually a big deals or not. So anyway, I can't see anything that would show up asking that specific question on the internet. And usually at this point, if you ask something like that, there's going to be forums and threads and Reddits and YouTube videos complaining about, some known issue or some suspected issue or like a reason why they discontinued or something like that. Trying to get the pictures of a Mark II. Yeah, I've got one of these in 7.62 by 39. I really, really like it. So the answer to that one is we don't think so. Next up is, and people can feel free to leave any ideas of why Clover's not here. We only got the one so far. Let's see, the next question is, hello, looking for a good, decent rifle muzzle for a what does that mean? Good, decent rifle muzzle for a Winchester 22 long rifle. So I guess we're getting a lot of people from other countries asking questions or something. At least from the ones we've been picking lately, because looking for a good rifle in Winchester 22 long rifle, that makes sense. But either these are robots screwing with my form or people from other countries asking the question, how would you answer that? How would you interpret it? And then how would you answer that interpretation?
Okay, because I don't think they really mean muzzle device because it's 22. I'm thinking maybe they mean suppressor. You think? And it's losing something in the translation?
That could be. How do I muzzle the Winchester 22? That makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, that's weird. I mean, because What's a muzzle device for it? The 22. I mean, you can get different ones, depends on the threading, but
Honestly, I
I
can't imagine they would help you. All they could do is mess with you, right? Like, I've never even seen a muzzle device for 22. That's
I mean,
except for
all I'm
like,
thinking is competition guns when
yeah. Well, that could be if they had some kind of competition 22 and they're asking about a specific muzzle device for it, then I have to say I have no idea. Like, I guess I know that they exist, but I don't even know where to begin on what.
well, you can check out Tandem Cross because I was looking at those when I was over at SHOT Show, and I saw them again at the Great American Outdoor Show.
So
You can
aside from being different colors, do you know what like a muzzle device on a 1022 or on like one of those Target 22s? Are they counterweights or are they more?
I'm thinking it's more of that, but understand when you're shooting those competitions, in my mind, it's like 22 Steel Challenge, where just keeping that thing flat and transitioning from target to target. So any weight on the barrel will make a difference, you know, and that's where I'm thinking. But I don't know. The wording is weird. Like it's not a telegram. You don't have to pay per word, man. Do a little more explaining, and that would really help us out.
That's a good point. Yeah, if you are from a different language, then using more words is probably better. Can't say always being too wordy, but probably better. I'm wondering
Yeah,
if
for the
something.
last two, that would help.
Oh, I'm logged into a different account, I guess. Did Anne Marie just gift memberships or something? I think something happened. I gotta go switch over to my one account and then go find the video. Oh, I guess I am looking at the video just from a different account. Oh no, I'm looking at the video on the other channel. That's what it is. So anyway, I'm about to jump over and see what's happening over there, but it looks like one of the viewers, Anne Marie, may have. Hold on a second here. You don't see anything on the StreamYard side for what it's worth. I'm just noticing the comments that people are talking about. And eventually my computer will catch up. So here we go. It says Anne Marie gifted 5 memberships. So we have memberships on the channel, on the YouTube channel, similar to the Patreon. It's a way you can subscribe to our projects, what we do. So as a member, she's able to buy additional members, or excuse me, buy additional memberships, and then they just get distributed to the chat. There's a couple of qualifications for people that are interested or wondering why you're not ever getting a membership, because we have a lot of content creators that watch our stuff. If you're what do they call it like now, a sponsored channel or a partner channel with YouTube, if you're getting paid by YouTube, I don't think they let you accept gift memberships. So first off, you're never going to get a gift membership if you're getting paid by YouTube, as far as I know. Then, of course, if you're a member already of the channel, it's not going to give you a gift membership. And then lastly, you need to be active in the chat. So there's a whole bunch of people watching right now live. Oh, I guess I'm looking at the weird thing here. So there's a bunch of people watching. If you're one of the people that are just watching, then you're not going to get gifted a membership either. Now, if there's a bunch of people talking and you're not a member yet, then it'll go to who's talking the most. So I looked it up because I kept getting frustrated when I never got a gift membership. And then I figured out that my channel can't get a gift membership. So then I switched to a different channel and it never got a gift membership. And I think you also, I'm forgetting a step. Whenever that happens, I can't show you because I can't show you a gift membership to my own channel, but there's some buttons you got to push somewhere. And then that opens up a little window and it says accept gift membership. So you also have to make sure that your channel is able to accept gifts. Anyhow, so it looks like there's 2 more available. And somebody tell me where the little button is that you can click on. I guess what I could do is, I don't want to go to another show, or I mean a different channel, because then you'll gift me my own membership, and that's weird. But anyway, so I appreciate that. That's really cool. You can do that. Obviously, do it with our channel as much as you want, because that'll show up as don't know which membership she did, but let's say she did the $1 membership, that'll show up as $5, minus YouTube's cut. But that's money, that'll accumulate, and we'll use that to pay bills. So thanks for that. But when someone does that on somebody's channel, that shows up as a little what's the word? Like a little extra income. That's cool. Appreciate it. Okay, so however, looks like a bunch of people got some free stuff. So Roll Call got a membership, got one, and Guns and Water. So 2 more out there as people do things to get qualified or whatever. Well, but we're also in contest. So for one, did I get dropped out of here? Am I getting disconnected? It says my internet's bad. Go shut off my other computer. Okay, so if I got cut out there, we're also having the contest for the best reason why Clover's not here. Oh, Tony got kicked out. Did Tony get kicked out, or am I the one kicking people out? So anyway, if somebody wants to come up with some kind of story, some kind of explanation to why Clover's not here, the puppy's freaking out because he doesn't know. There's Tony. I don't know. I think that's my machine doing that to you.
Yeah, it just dropped off.
I don't know if it's my internet goes bad. It's possible. I'm on cable, so it's possible that the kids in the neighborhood or whatever, or the old people in the neighborhood are playing their video games on Saturdays or watching their sports. I don't know what they do. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm getting disconnected. All right, well, this is a good time to do a couple of things. Tony didn't see it, but I made robots make a video for us. Here's the video. Welcome to our Ask Gun Questions podcast series about guns, where we aim to answer your burning questions and provide insights into the world of firearms. Our show is hosted by 3 passionate gun enthusiasts, Clover Tack from Texas, Tony Simon from New Jersey, and me here in Arizona. We all have a wealth of knowledge and experience in the fields. Each Saturday at noon Eastern, we'll be discussing everything from the basics of gun ownership to more advanced topics like firearms maintenance, concealed carry, and the latest industry news. We will also be sharing our personal experiences and perspectives, as well as inviting guest experts to join us for in-depth discussions on specific topics. Whether you're a seasoned gun owner or just starting to explore the world of firearms, our Ask Gun Questions podcast is designed to be informative, engaging, and entertaining. So, grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for an exciting journey answering your gun questions. That's what happens when you tell a computer to make an intro for our show, and then tell another computer to make a video with the intro from the other computer made. To robot brains or whatever, and I'm going to make a video about how the robot brains are anti-gun because media is anti-gun and the robot brains only read media, right? Why it's important for us to do our thing. So I told the robot brain, tell me about gun laws or whatever, and it'll say blah blah blah, and this is why to prevent gun violence, the ATF blah blah blah, and blah blah blah. What the fuck? Like, it's super anti-gun. So and it's subtle, super anti-gun. I heard somebody, I was talking about it, I just shut that computer off. I was just listening to a lady who was a CIA analyst, information analyst for like 30 years. And then she wrote a book about people who challenge the status quo, who are on the inside of organizations, who challenge the ways of thinking. She said that, for example, the CIA analyst that she eventually became the boss of, there's the, what do you call, like the manager of. So she came out of the role of just being a good analyst and then started to manage other analysts and started to investigate, their ways of doing things and whatever. and they had filters on whatever software they were using. And she asked them, when's the last time you updated your filters? When's the last time you readjusted your filters to whatever, like whatever's current or whatever is better keywords, whatever the thing was, right? And essentially the answers were all either what, or like, I didn't know, like I put in whatever ones my trainer told me to put in, or like, I didn't know you could even change these things, and she's like, that's something that these analysts should have been changing, probably weekly or something, like, constantly. Like it should have been something they monitored and then had like meetings on whether or not, they're changing it enough or the right way and that kind of stuff. So, it's just this way of thinking, like, are you depending on things that are tradition or be based on, actual intel or whatever. So anyhow, I got starting to thinking about her lectures. I've been listening to, I was watching one of the military interviews, and then the computer that I'm watching isn't logged in. So it just desperately tried to show me something I thought might be interesting. And it showed me this interview, like a sort of TED Talks with this lady who, like I say, was CIA analyst for 30 years. And she had this insight. And I think that's what I was going to say is her insight. And I can't remember. I was going to bring that up for her. Tony is saying that Chat GPT has. I'm going to get my thing. Oh man, there's all kinds of chat out there. Have you played with the robots, the AIs at all? I keep asking people.
Not at all.
They're crazy, and they only really started in November of 22. So they're months old. So don't think like, oh, I'm missing out on like Twitter or something, that's existed for a long time. These are fairly new. The Microsoft one, let's say, it's this big or whatever, and you can get into it and play with it, and it's fairly inexpensive or even free. And then they're about to come out with the next one, which is significantly bigger, significantly better, and they didn't know when they were going to be able to come out with it. It'll be this month or next month, I think this month, and it'll be a fraction of the cost. And the first one wasn't even expensive. It's like very inexpensive. And the next one will be even cheaper, and it'll be able to do just even more. So crazy implications. The more I play with it, the more, the way that people say it, the internet changed things and cell phones changed things. That's the way. We're talking major changes coming quick. It's crazy what it can do.
Yes, I've seen people. I think for me, the first thing I saw were all these people with their pictures and they had their photos done, like fantasy photos and different things like that. Then I started hearing the voice modulation, and you can have famous people's voices say whatever you want to. So you can write a script and the computer would speak in those people's voices. I think that was funny and also scary.
Think of the way that like people were using the first Photoshop or like printing the first things with a printer at home. Like those paper banners when we were in school. It'd be like happy birthday on like 700 feet worth of like paper that had the holes in it. And they'd be like, look, we made banners with our printer. And like, look what printers can do today. Like you can take a printer and print into a matrix, and then it prints, it zaps it with light or something. It prints, it zaps it with light. And what you end up with is like a little plastic figurine that is in full color. So unlike 3D printing, where like one piece of plastic fills, like they have printers now that just essentially print onto a bed of plastic powder, and then it prints in color, and then it like zaps it, and that becomes part of the material. But it just adds little layers at a time. And since it adds little layers in full color, the end product is one material, but it's in all these different colors, and it's still got some of the characteristics of a regular 3D printer, but a lot fewer of them. And anyway, so we're getting to where we're essentially printing like a replicator from Star Trek or whatever, and that's where AI is like. AI is like those. Look at what I made with my dot matrix printer. Look at this banner in one color with just a bunch of D's making a D and a bunch of X's making an X. Like garbage. Like that's what we're playing with AI. The implications, though, are like airplanes that never crash and like the Jetsons cars where you just get in it and the car is going where it's going because you told it. You know what I mean? Like robots that really do what they're told and are just like little robots that hang out like little pets and stuff. Like it's going to get crazy interesting pretty quick. You won't want to own nothing and you'll be happy with it. Let's see. Hardly trendy, not even trendy. This is the applications are kind of playing around, but again, they're like playing. It's like being able to play with the first Photoshop. Literally everything happens in Photoshop today. Okay, so going back to the muzzle for a Winchester 22. If they're just looking at Winchester 22 muzzle loader, is that even a thing?
A 22 caliber muzzle loader?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand. Well, I don't know everything. Somebody might make one. Not the ones I look at, though.
I don't think I've ever. Oh, you know what? That's not true. You know what? I do own two of them now that I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
I have an NAA muzzle loaders. So imagine an NAA, but instead of having a bored through cylinder, it's got a cylinder that has a percussion cap, and then you load it. So I technically have two of them, but they're modern. They're not, they look just like a regular North American arms. They don't look like old or anything. But aside from those, I don't think. I guess there's a 22 rifle muzzle loader here that I just found from Cooper Firearms, but I haven't seen one. And I'm guessing it has to do with keeping a 22 barrel clean, and a muzzle loader would be horrible. Like, oh my goodness. Can you even imagine? Muzzle loaders get super dirty really fast. Having a bore that's as big around as your pinky is bad enough, like getting down to a little tiny one.
Yeah. Trying to run a patch through that? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You just don't have enough. The rod would get so small that it wouldn't be rigid anymore. So I think that's why. So maybe it works with a little tiny revolver, or literally a tiny revolver. But
anything else is a no-go.
Let's see. So I don't know what Gunswater is talking about there. Anne Marie said they have 3D printer solving murder cases, reconstructing skulls and stuff. Yeah, I'm guessing that with, like right now, I was already, that Blender software I've been playing with, it's for making 3D. It's like Photoshop for 3D. You can like just create things in 3 dimensions and then send them to a printer or send them to animation software, or just use them for different things so that you have a 3-dimensional model of something, though, for consistency or whatever. They can take Google satellite, or just satellite images, Google satellite images, or U.S. Department of Maps or whatever it's called, the USGS. You can take satellite images, though, shove them into this Blender software, and the what do you call it? The satellite files are just free. They're open source. Like the satellites literally push them down from space on us all the time, like rain. They're just being broadcast all the time by the satellites. So if you either pick one up or go to one site where somebody has already picked it up and download it, and then you put that software into your Blender, there might be one application that you put in between there to make it read or whatever. But essentially, you can make a 3-dimensional map in your software of wherever it is you want to have GPS maps of. So, you can have a terrain map. You could have a city 3-dimensional map. If you want to make like an animation of like a Spider-Man cartoon and you want to have a real Detroit, you just go get the current satellite maps for Detroit and you get all the buildings that are in Detroit, all the streets, it's just Detroit in 3 dimensions in your software. So, yeah, I mean, and then of course you could print that. So you can, it's getting crazy. They can do that with a city. Then yeah, they'll be able to start doing that with our brains and our organs. And like, this is what a kidney should look like. Yours don't. So we're just going to chop this piece out and rebuild this part that looks normal for you out of your own parts or something, probably. I'm not even sure, but it'll be interesting. Cause like I say, if once a surgeon makes a mistake and never can make the mistake again, You know, we're just at a different level of evolution, or a different pace. Maybe that's the way to say it. You know, the pace of evolution.
Yeah.
I don't know whose chat it was in. Somebody's chat just the other day was talking about how our grandparents, so at least Tony and I's grandparents, your grandparents still around?
No.
Yeah, we're a little too old for that. But when our grandparents were still kicking, they grew up before the Depression. Like, we're born and grew up before the Depression, depending on how old we are, in or before World War One, right? And then existed through, no, wait, way before that. I don't remember when all the wars were anymore. I have to do some math here. But, you know, they were essentially around from World War One, which was the beginning of planes. Like, so they existed, they lived on this planet before planes. If not before planes were like more than just Wright brothers playing around. It wasn't until the U.S. Department of Mail, or whatever, the post office, requested airplanes to start flying air mail around, that airplanes became a thing. Before that, it was just all Wright brothers playing around, like 3D printer people just playing around in their backyard. So our grandparents lived when airplanes were just a backyard hobby of enthusiasts, straight through World War One and airplane and all that aviation, going all the way up to the moon. And then think about the parallel with computers and with cars and with, you know, any other technology you want to develop. You know, that generation, though, imagine the what do you call that? Like the span of technology there, like the evolution or whatever, like the rate of evolution or something. What if everything gets to be at an even greater level? Like, where do you go from not even having airplanes yet, in a world where boats have sails and ropes on them still, to like go into outer space and boats are the size of cities with nuclear power plants running them, and, you know, crews of people on them that, anyway, you know, only have to man them for 4 years. There was a time when your generations and generations of families were ship people, or like horse people. Like, that's what you did, because that's what your parents did for 4 generations, because we need horses, you know, not just for the royalty, but just everybody needed horses. So horse people were like horse people forever. Now you can be like, yeah, I'm sick of this job, I'm just gonna go to some other job. We take a lot for granted. But anyhow, getting off into this. We're definitely at a point when technology is going to go from quick to like super fast. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with some kid being born today, like what they're going to experience.
Well, it's just funny talking about the conversation we just had about dot matrix printers and where we are now, and that's happened in our lifetime. And I'm talking from the 80s to now, just on that one thing. The computing power has increased. Everything is happening faster. That evolution is happening faster, because now you don't only have to wait for humans to do the mathematics. You don't have to wait for models to be completely built, you know what I mean, by someone and then tested by someone. You can do all the testing on a computer in the virtual world. So you don't even have to have machinery to build it until you have it almost perfected, or perfected in the virtual world. And then you can have it built in the real world. And you skipped over all that machining, tearing it down, starting over. That didn't work. You know what I mean? All that tweaking, all that expense. It's cheaper to do it now. It's faster to do it now. And it is insane. People, time seems weird. But think about this. Prior to World War II, this is in 1941. So in the 1930s, there was something called barnstormers, that were people that flew airplanes around the country. And you would have events where everyone would come out and watch dudes fly airplanes and do stunts with airplanes. And that's pretty much the only way most of America even ever saw a plane, if they went to one of these events. I remember reading a book about a United States Marine that was stationed in Camp Pendleton into World War II. He was there. He was doing patrols. He did patrol on a horseback, and because he was not active duty and in a combat situation, he's on horseback with the M1903 Springfield bolt action, and he's looking up in the sky and watching jets being tested. He was like, that was the weirdest, like, contradiction. Like he's on one of the last horses that the Marine Corps will have, watching jet fighters. You know what I mean? And pilots flying jet fighters as he's on a bolt action riding the perimeter at Camp Pendleton.
Seriously, and you would have asked that person or that generation, right? But specifically that person who experienced that, right? Like, are you at the pinnacle of technology? And they'd be like, either yes or like yes, and we're on our way, like we're still going. You know what I mean? Like, would anybody have been like, we're not at space yet or whatever. Like, we don't have computers yet. They were digging it.
Yeah, if you would have said then, yeah, we're not in space yet. We'll be there in another freaking 20 years. They would have locked that dude up.
That's true too. Like, definitely, just if you were at a bar or whatever, they'd have been like, you're drunk. Come on, time to go home.
Yeah, by 1969, we'll walk on the moon. Like, yeah, okay. Did you get hit in the head, Earl? What is wrong with you?
Somebody's saying they bought surplus Curtis Jennies for cheap, and then when they wrecked one, they just get another one, practically disposable. And I think that's, I was watching, what was I watching? It was really neat. It was a really interesting history of all this. And I never had put it together, even through all my, at least if I ever did put it together, I'd forgotten it. But essentially, when they started to do, or what do they call it? People getting on an airplane, airliners, when people are getting on them for travel, it was like you just said, most people's experience was watching these planes either do super risky ass shit with hot rod pilots or whatever, like, doing crazy stunts and then crashing all the time, or hearing about the crashes all the time. So I'm sure the newspaper was like, another plane crashed, right? It was like a hard sell to get people to get on a plane. They were like, fuck no.
So they had to make them luxury trips. If you look at the old plane ads, dude, carpeting, full meals, drinks, smoking cigarettes, that whole thing, which I often laugh because, they're telling me I have to turn off my cell phone. I'm like, 40 years ago, dude, I could smoke a cigarette in this thing. But somehow you're telling me my cell phone is going to cause the plane to crash because I'm tweeting? Get out of here.
I've smoked on a plane. You smoked on a plane? Or did you ever smoke?
No. Yeah, at that time, I didn't smoke, no. But I've been on a plane when you were able to smoke.
Yeah, I remember being on planes when I was a little kid, and it was horrible. But then coming home from Virginia one time, I was on a plane, and was it the only time? No, it wasn't the only time. But it was maybe the first time. No, it wasn't the first time. But it was one of the early times when I had flown in uniform. And then I was like, God damn, because I smoked. I just started smoking. God damn, I'm going to smoke a cigarette. Little did I know, last opportunity in my lifetime to ever smoke on an airplane. And I think even then it was you had to smoke in the back. Or was it? I think it was always you had to. No, it was kind of a thing to make you smoke in the back, right? Before it was like every seat had an ashtray. What am I thinking?
Yeah, every seat had an ashtray, and they had the thing up. And they liked the no smoking sign when they didn't want you to, but then the smoking sign would come on and you could smoke on the plane.
That's true. And that's why I hated it, because being a little kid, you're like, very reason to start smoking. Like you didn't, I don't know. I guess I didn't think about it too much, but it was just always unpleasant when people would start smoking when you're little.
Smoking in restaurants. They had the little,
at least in an airplane, it all got sucked up. Like in an air restaurant or whatever, they'd be blowing it around. You'd be sitting there minding your business at a restaurant, and almost every table had somebody smoking at it, so you weren't getting away from it. People don't even know.
And then they came out
to a bar today and experience it a little bit.
Then they came out with non-smoking sections, and that was cool. But then they just forced all the smokers out. Like, don't smoke in here. Then they didn't give you a choice. Incrementalism. They took that ability away incrementally.
How much? I'm just gonna start winging this because it has nothing to do with anything anybody said. But we're talking smoking-free zones essentially. And you know where I'm going with this. So it was controversial, and it's still controversial on whether or not smoking hurts you and whether or not secondhand smoking hurts you, and definitely whether or not the government has any business in any of that. And then the whole smoking-free zones is sort of a federal bully thing, like we're going to make sure everybody does it. But nobody pushed back on that because the only people to push were the smokers, and it was like uncool socially and whatever to be a smoker. So, you know what I'm saying? Like that was a real push, like a real cultural what am I calling it? The
Culture war. Yeah, it was a real thing.
well, the what's it window thing? The I can't think of the window.
Oh, Overton window.
Yeah, that was a real play of the Overton window, right? Like get
Yep.
smoking to be not cool anymore, get rid of it, and then make these zones and stuff. So I guess two questions. Do you know of anything like from your knowledge of that whole thing? Is there anything to like looking into that and going, wait a minute, all these gun free or these smoke free zones, why don't we have the lack of cancer? Right? Like, how come
Mm-hmm.
these weren't magically saving us? So if they were ineffective, why do we even need to do it? Why was it just tyranny for tyranny's sake? And then I guess second question, and this I can save this till second piece, but how much of the gun free zones are because they're just leaning into the free zone bullshit that they already got this whole like you can't drink and drive, you're not allowed to smoke in here. Of course we can control where you're going to have your crazy guns, you crazy vice. You want to do your vices everywhere. You probably want to smoke and you probably want to smoke and drink while you got your guns.
It came about because again, yeah, you didn't get that pushback. You didn't get someone slapping you in the face and telling you to shut up. And I don't mean physically. I mean going, stop. You haven't conclusively drawn that if I smoke in this restaurant, you sitting on the complete other side of the room is gonna die from cancer. To stop it. Or if you are a server, oh yeah, well they work there 8 hours a day and they work the smoky section and they're gonna die. You haven't figured out where cancer comes from yet. You haven't figured out conclusively that this plus this equals this. You could say the risk goes up, but then you don't. Let's not get into that because it's shown that they call it practicing medicine for a damn reason. And now when it comes time to back off of what they say, they sometimes double down on it, as you're seeing with COVID restrictions and the things that many of us have been saying since 2020. Now all of a sudden we're not conspiracy theorists. It was just, oh well, they didn't have proof and you were just talking out of your ass. It's not true at all. So they've seen how to play this out, and it's a long game. They did it with smoking, they did it with drinking, they did it with seatbelts. As long as you keep working it, it'll become something that voluntarily and then mandatory, and it's not cool. And everybody, you can see it on television now with their anti-gun uh, slant on many TV shows where the only time you see a civilian use a firearm, they do it incorrectly. They bumble about. They shoot the wrong person. They're inept. It's never a good civilian shoot. It's always something about it in any of these shows. The only
Right.
people that can rock a firearm effectively, a former military, someone that was an agent of the state, they're the only ones that can use a firearm effectively.
And then it's also a subtle like it works for the bad guys when it needs to for the story, and it doesn't work for the good guys when it needs to for the story, but then it's also ultimately effective when it needs to for the story. They're like these magic talismans
Hmm.
with no effort to no focus on the actual reality of it, just the like they're ultimately evil when necessary and they're ultimately random and sporadic when we need them to be.
And we've all seen it. We've seen the trope where the guy gives the girl a handgun. Usually that's who it is. That's how they play it off. I don't know how to use one of these. Just point it and pull the trigger when you need to. And then it magically works and they hit what they're aiming at when the bad guy comes. But outside of that, no. Any civilian firearms ownership is a fluke. They have no trigger discipline. They're idiots, and that's on purpose. They create that for a reason. The same way they dumb down anyone that didn't have a college degree on television, pretty much since the 70s. If you worked with your hands on television in the 50s and 60s, you earned a good living. You were the mechanic. You were the guy who they went to. You were somebody that was important to the community. And then as the 70s got on, if you were a mechanic, if you work with your hands, you were a dupe. You were the plumber. You were the janitor. You were the butt of jokes. And you can watch that. And I can name characters. Schneider from One Day at a Time. Bookman or Booker from friggin' Good Times. Like factory workers. You were idiots. Laverne and Shirley, Lenny, they worked the line. If you didn't go to college, you were a moron. So all of this stuff has worked towards where we are now. It was subtle, but it was constant.
Again, subtly, the people who did go to college just have these jobs that never stress them out, infinite resources, infinite ability to buy a job because they went to you leave your job 9 to 5 at home, or I mean at work, and at home you're there 100% for whatever the story demands, except for Bundy's or whatever. Most stories though, all that stuff was in the background. And
yeah. So it was subtle, and I've watched it, and people, oh no, I'm like, stop. There's enough television shows on, old TV shows on, that you can go back and watch it now. You can compare yourself. You don't have to pay attention to me, but here's what you can look for, and you can see it change. You can see it in the movies. Only somebody that worked for the state or the government in some kind of way is a good guy with a gun. Outside of what? John Wick, maybe?
all right, well, so I took it off in a direction there, but it kind of was thinking about that. I haven't thought about the I guess tobacco-free zones or whatever, no smoking zones.
Yep, they've done it before. They'll do it again. This is a tactic, and it worked. I'm sitting outside a restaurant now, and all around the perimeter of the place is benches that you can sit and smoke, but you have to sit outside and smoke. But this is in Pennsylvania. It has more freedom. I don't think Jersey would even have one of these outside of a restaurant. They put it on the median in the highway. You can play Frogger if you want.
Now, is it just a thing from movies? I don't go to enough city stuff, and I don't know if you do either, but you are a lot closer to bigger cities than me. But on top of roofs, are they usually like balconies or decks or whatever where you can go out there and smoke and stuff on a roof, or is that less common than I think?
Yeah, I think that's less common. Not that I know of now. Hold on. Because I don't do a bunch of city dwelling at this point either. I'm more at suburbs now in Jersey. And people can smoke outside their homes or in their backyards here. Yeah, I haven't been in a city like that. I'm just thinking about it. Last time I was somewhere was like Austin, Texas in the 90s.
I know every time I see some kind of a pan over the top of a city or helicopter, airplane view, I'm like, man, that seems like a lot of potential sitting on the roofs of all these buildings.
Oh, yeah.
And we know from movies that you can run around and do all kinds of stuff up there. Nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody's looking. No one sees from one place to the other.
All right. So earlier, Gunswater had said, Guns and Water. I always say Gunswater. He said, because I had said something earlier, said don't be adopting the anti-gun term. Saturday Night Special was the first assault weapons terminology tried by the racist anti-gun crowd. If you put the caveat racist in there, I'll agree with you. But it's not the first time they demonized slang term on guns, because there was at least one earlier, the suicide specials. And I think that's where Saturday Night Specials came from. And I say that they're chronologically in that order because I happened to notice somebody said something about the suicide specials, and I bought that magazine, and that's from like the 40s. And then the Saturday Night Special one, we know where that comes from, and it was more like the 60s. So I'm pretty sure Suicide Special was kind of first, and then you're right, like to be racist, I think they kind of warped it into the Saturday Night Special, unless calling something some specials was just a thing, and that was just like a trend back in the day that I don't know about. But there's the Midnight Special and all this other shit. Unless all these specials are racist, and I don't know about that. But the Suicide Specials, I don't think was racist. That was just this was the inexpensive guns that were being imported, essentially as just like bicycle guns, where like you're going to be taking a walk and some rabid dog or some stray cat or something's going to come up, and back in the day I guess you just shoot at that kind of stuff. So you'd have these little 22s, and since they're made out of bad metal, they would sometimes go fire out a battery or blow up or something, so they call them suicide specials because you have a chance of hurting yourself by shooting them. And also people who were doing that, committing suicide, were able to just go to the store and buy them. I think that was another element of it. But anyway, so I just figured I was also saying what whenever I was bringing that up before, I don't ever refer to any guns as Saturday Night Specials. It's the same as assault weapons. I'll use the words because I'm not scared to use words. We have to be able to describe stuff, but I do try to put the caveat, like I did before, what people would call Saturday Night Specials. Like I don't call them that because I don't. But anyhow, plus we were talking about 38 revolvers. I would think they'd be probably considered more suicide specials because they were earlier than the Saturday Night Specials. Problem is, anything earlier is included in the stuff later. So if they are talking about Saturday Night Specials, which are defined as pocket guns and small caliber, right, it can be used as crime guns or whatever by criminals, then all of the suicide specials fit into the Saturday Night Specials because they exist, right, and they're cheap and they're around. But suicide special set. I don't know if you want to riff on that at all. It's been a while since we talked about Saturday Night Specials.
All right. Well, one of the things that a lot of people don't know when you go into the history of some of the firearms terms and some of the attitudes we have about firearms, especially cheaper ones that came from Europe, is that post-World War II, we had a lot of firearms companies in this country that had done a crazy business because of the war, right? So they were making firearms left and right, and now the war's over. Well, European companies were sending guns out too because they were trying to reestablish their industry. So you had Ruby pistols out of Spain. You had all kinds of inexpensive firearms coming in, and it was important for our firearms industry and our firearms industry to discourage people from using those firearms because that was competition. So they shut it down. I think they used any means necessary, including called them suicide specials, saying they were made of pot metal, saying they were, and reporting that they were blowing up left and right. So I think a lot of that is also bullcrap, but we've believed it because this is what your granddad told you. This is what your dad told you because that's what he heard growing up. And I'm like, but is it necessarily true? Like how they poo-pooed M1 carbines for a long time because they wanted you to buy new stuff. Why are you not buying new guns? Well, it's because these M1 carbines are going for $25 or less. And I can pick that up in a buttload of ammo after they went surplus. So a lot of stuff, we don't know the why behind it unless you look into it or talk to someone older or you hear these kind of explanations. So yeah, and I really don't know the racist story behind Saturday Night Special. No one ever told me, and when I go to research it, I still don't find it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't look too hard, but when I check it out and I read, I'm like, okay, inexpensive firearms, and somebody's like, oh no, they meant something else. I'm like, what?
Well, it came from an article or some radio show or something.
Oh, really?
Peter will tell us, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, dude, inexpensive firearms for people that can't afford it, or again, that's not that much of a priority in their life if they're going to spend a significant amount of money on it, but they still want protection. And that's what I talk to people about things like a high point. It's like, yeah, you in no way in the world, if you know they're selling $200 brand new handguns, can I convince you that a $600 Glock is that much better than a $150 high point? Like I can talk till I'm blue in the face. But until you shoot that high point for a while, and then I'll let you shoot a Glock, then you'll see the difference, and then you can at least measure it. You know what I mean? And go, yeah, is it important enough for me to have a decent trigger and a gun that weighs less and it's easier to shoot? Like education helps you make better decisions, or at least informed decisions. Nobody says you're going to make a better one.
I'm looking now because I always like it when they can tell you the specific origin of something, and they're saying that this thing is the specific origin. So I'm going to go see if I can buy it on eBay or not. Real quick, like, and then, but anyhow, the the racist part of it is the first time they, I guess I can't remember if it was an article or a radio show or something. For some reason, I remember it saying like a quote, but for some reason, I guess I heard it on the radio. No exact. I don't know what this thing is. Maybe a magazine or something. So anyway, they're saying that the whatever the first known whatever. Anyway, it was a racist statement that the first like introduction of the word onto the scene was, and then it was just used as a way to describe guns that people would buy and throw away, essentially, like your gun that you're just gonna buy and have it as your like, what they call them, they call them throwaway guns, didn't they?
I mean, I've heard the term throwaway gun, but I mean, coming from the country where you have firearms set aside for things, like you're not running all the way in a house from a field to shoot like a snake.
Oh no, this was more like criminals who would be like bang, bang, bang at each other and then throw the gun into the river because it only cost them $30, and now they don't have to be associated with it. Whatever. If something happened, then they could just say, "Oh, it's not my gun," and go buy another one. So it came from that idea of like, or maybe just people who are for bravado or whatever. I'm going to wave my gun around and then just wing it into the bushes, and then I don't have a gun just because you don't care about that thing, right? Like, so you're never going to shoot it. It was just that sort of like, the gun is my talisman and it costs so cheap or I'm just going to buy a cheap one so that I can have it as like cosplay essentially. And then if it does, something happens, if I have to use it, I have no idea how to use a gun, so it doesn't really matter to me if it's mechanically sound or not. Anyway, so that's where it came from, but it came from racist, the first original introduction of the thing. But then the idea that people took it and kept it as a thing in our society, that's where it just turns into people's, if you come from a place where people ain't racist and people were calling it that, then it's not a racist term for you. If you come from a place where people are racist and they're using it as a weapon, the words as a weapon, as a way to diminish or to be assholes, then there you go. Then it's a racist connotation, right? That's in the use of it and in the interpretation of it over time or whatever. But
yeah, that's the way it works.
Inexpensive guns, and essentially guns that were created before 1968, and they because the fact that these inexpensive guns existed, and because of the fact that the racist cops, or you could just say dismissive cops who would say and I say racist because a lot of people who are poor in the areas that they were being accused of being racist in, they were people of color or whatever, depending on where they were, depending, the type of people they were. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. At the time, though, in 68, they were saying that these inexpensive guns were the cause of violence, not any other mitigating circumstances, right? Poverty or drugs or any other aspect of society, but the availability of guns are the reason that there's violence. So what we're going to get rid of is the guns that are being used by the people in these areas. So essentially it's racist gun control, and the term is racist because it was used to justify the racist gun control that said the only problem here is that the guns are the problem, right? The availability of guns. So by removing these specific guns from society, inexpensive guns of low caliber made out of these materials that come from Europe. Well, they didn't say come from Europe, but since they blocked the importation of them from Europe, from people that were making them, and they were all in Europe, the implication was that if you take these specific guns out of society, then we'll have less violence. So, it'll be cured society. Anyway, so the way that it was used and perpetrated, I call that side of it racist too. So whether you're looking at it from where it comes from or the way that it was used against us, it's super racist. The term is racist. But then it essentially died because any guns after that are cheap or low caliber, or any of the other characteristics, technically can't be Saturday Night Specials anymore because they're manufactured here.
Yep. Yeah. So, I know. I talk to people about this during my events because they talk about, oh, well, you get rid of the cheap guns. And I'm like, so for law-abiding people or people that live in bad crime-infested neighborhoods, you just took their means of self-defense away, affordable self-defense away, and still refuse to fix the issues behind what caused the area to be a crap area in the first place. And I've watched that even in what we had closest to a mass shooting in New Jersey happened right after we signed, the governor signed the 10-round magazine a law. Like, and I'm talking about that weekend, because the douche canoe signed it on a Wednesday, and then Saturday to Sunday we had the shooting at something called Art All Night in Trenton. So that happened Saturday night and Sunday morning. Sunday morning, he wasted no time going to a black church in Trenton talking about how we need more gun control. Now, 96 hours hadn't passed since he passed the last gun control bill. And he was talking about how this wouldn't have happened if they passed stricter gun control. Well, the mayor of Trenton was there, and he asked for help with gangs, unemployment, and education. But all the governor would talk about was more gun control. And I'm like, if that doesn't show you where the priority is with these people, nothing else does. When you're standing beside the mayor of the city and he's not asking for more gun control, he's asking for help educating people and giving them opportunities, it's a deaf ear. They act as if he didn't even say anything. And that's what I try to push on people and get them to understand. The gun control thing is paramount to them. That's more important to strip you of firearms than to make you safe. But they will use your safety as the excuse to strip your ability away to defend yourself against anyone who's trying to push their will upon you against your will. That's from criminals to the government itself. They don't want you to have that power. Because the more you experience, the more you depend on the government to keep you safe, because they took away your ability to resist that violent crime. It's disgusting and it's obvious.
Nothing to add except that, yeah, you can go back and look at history too, and it'll pretty much all line up where people that could defend from their government had nothing to fear from their government.
Yeah, they just do what you're told.
Let's see. So then, are we promoting High Point, the gun for your friends? The gun for your friends that say when shit hits the fans, I'm coming to you. Okay, so I'm not sure, because we were talking about high points in a couple, like kind of a roundabout way there, but that's an interesting point too, that a lot of people think about prepping and stuff, and not everybody gets to the point where they're prepping for others, right? And if you get to that point, then you have to make the decision, am I prepping decent quality stuff because I got the resources to put that kind of stuff on, what do they call it, on mothballs until it's needed, if it's ever needed, and hopefully it is never needed kind of thing? Or do you put an inexpensive thing there? And if you're going to go that route, do you want to put something inexpensive that's proven, or inexpensive that's just inexpensive for the sake of being inexpensive? So that is a point, that as a spare, as a extra, but as a, I don't know what to call that, like an inventory thing, or I don't know what to call, arsenal thing.
We've discussed this. It's like, is High Point the new version of the Liberty pistol from World War II? Like, is that why you get, a High Point? And if you don't know what the Liberty pistol is, it was the one supposedly OSS developed, 45. It was a single shot mostly, but you could reload it, but it was used to shoot Germans, shoot a Nazi. It was dropped to, behind the lines to resistance fighters. And it's like the single shot 45 that you use to take out, a Nazi guard, and then you steal his good rifle. And you use that as a resistance fighter. Many of them were not dropped because it was just kind of a sucky thing to do to somebody. Here's a single shot thing that'll probably get you killed. But we had that discussion. And my thing is this. What do you do? How many are you going to get? Now, I've seen people buy High Point pistols 4 at a time. Thing is, you have to make sure the magazines work in those C9s. because that is the only problem I saw with them. Sometimes they nosedive. You have to tweak the feed lips on those magazines. That's the only thing I've seen with them. Other than that, yeah, I guess they're fine as a backup pistol. A better bet though would be police trade-ins, in my opinion. If you can find police trade-ins like police trade-ins, Smith and Wesson M&P, those are like 250 in many places. That would be better than a High Point, mainly because of holsters, magazines, spare parts, all that. You can swap out with that. But High Point is same thing. It's just heavier, not as refined, and obviously no PD issues them. So there's a deal with ruggedness and everything else. But that's just my opinion. And plus, how many guns do you get for your friends? Like, what kind of rifle do you pick up for your friends? Do you pick up a PSA? You know what I mean? Do you get a Bear Creek Arsenal AR-15 as your backup gun for your friends? Where does that stop? Mossberg 500 used ones?
Without 2 hours in here, I don't want to get into too many tangents, but people prep and they're like, I've got my gun, because they watch movies, and the people in movies never drop their knives or their guns. They never break nothing. They never stolen or nothing. They never lose, so they never have anything stolen from them. You know what I mean? Like,
never have a part goes down.
Yeah, a magazine or a pin or something, and now they can't use this perfectly good gun because the pin that holds it together ain't there. And that's where, again, what are you going to do? Like, have to go find another one, trade for one, assume somebody else has three, or do you have three? And then do you have three for you and your wife? Or like, do kids carry guns? Are they going to carry bows and arrows or something in some kind of a version of your movie? And then let's say you're going out and you're doing something 2 years into this SHTF situation, and somebody steals your gun, or you have to turn it in a checkpoint, or the government comes by and inspects and the gun gets confiscated. What are you going to do about it? Like, 2 years into SHTF, go to the gun shop and bitch, go online and complain about it to everybody? Like, there's realities. And yeah, again, if you're going to have four of something, it's tough to have, 4 of H&K $75 magazines.
Exactly. We've had this discussion. We've talked about it in different ways, because once you start getting some firearms, you understand the maintenance and maintaining of those guns. How many mags do you have? How long does SHTF last? What spare parts do you carry for your guns? How much of a gunsmith do you need to be, or an armorer? Like, how many levels deep does it go for you? And people never think it can go wrong. Your friends can snitch on you and get, your stash taken away that you keep at the house. I mean, you saw people calling on their neighbors because their neighbor had the audacity to go outside during COVID. When they were telling everyone to stay in the house.
There's 5 of you on the block. There's 4 allotments of water. Tell us who's not a good citizen.
Mm-hmm. You watch people just change up. I know my eyes have been open to some of the even gun people that I know that just wanted to comply. And why are you pushing back? And I'm looking at them like, really? Cold dead hands and all that other yah you speak. And now you're yelling at me because I went, I don't want to get this shot or something.
Okay. Well, now
we're gonna question it.
So now we're going to go less shit hits the fan and more back to other topics or other questions. So
yeah,
if somebody wants to get into a topic like that sometime, post it and I'll join in or something sometimes. But
because I think
I had a buck for every shit hits the fan discussion I've had over the years, because we used to have those in school back in the day. So not a new topic, and it does change. So it is interesting every once in a while. But anyway, without getting too into it, I'm going to move on to the next one. Clover got, so I was asking people why they think Clover show up to the show, and Worthwhile Fun was saying Clover got tired of the dog. So if you got any other ideas of why Clover didn't show up, why he's no longer with the show, feel free to put him in there. Maybe you'll win something. or maybe you won't, because Worthwhile Fun's the only one who's participated so far. So we'll leave that one starred, and we'll go on to saying the AIs, or hearing the AIs say our liberties is weird. Sure, hope they don't find AI is covered under the people someday. I'm almost positive that we'll end up, if there's a sentient quantum brain, then we're going to go, hey, we don't have the right to delete you or something. Like, that's going to happen. I can't imagine
Oh
it
yeah,
would end that way.
yeah, definitely.
And I think that's just cool, because then once we get downloaded into sentient quantum brains, we're not going to want people to be like, well, I need to free up some hard drive space for my new app.
Yeah, so let's delete all of these human beings. I don't know. I find it interesting, especially the way we're going now. But hey, man, just be aware that people are always going to try to control others. All communication is manipulation, and be aware that people are duplicitous. They don't mind you being equal as long as you're a little less equal than they are. And that's just human nature.
Well, here's what I'd say. I say that's definitely the history. I was watching that lady again, though, and she had some really interesting ways to be aware of your analytic glitches or whatever. And we all, as humans, have a tendency to think the past has any indication on the future. So, you can use lots of examples. I mean, sometimes trends, things that happen over cycles or whatever, then yeah, you can start to see patterns and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Things can get chaotic, and in the big picture, a lot of things, almost everything is chaotic in the big picture. So, just because something happened yesterday, very few things are guaranteed to happen again. Anyway. So,
Well, okay. I understand what you're saying, because people are like, oh, if you don't know the past, you're doomed to repeat it, and whatever happens before will happen again. But I like the Mark Twain. What, the future doesn't repeat? I mean, the past, history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it might not.
I was going to say the same thing. Like, it's that. It's like it's similar,
Yeah,
and you can get some patterns, but don't try to predict it down to the last minute or the rest
yeah,
of
you're
it.
not going to get all that, but yeah, it's going to be kind of like that, and that's the whole situation, in my opinion. Just be prepared. Everything has been done before, just a slightly different variant. Doesn't make me a genius. It just makes me aware that this will repeat, and that's why we do this, to talk to dudes, because the way we used to get information is no longer like that, dude.
And I'm
I
kind of
mean,
glad. I mean, I had good conversations when I was a kid. I'm glad I had my friends that I did, but they were wrong all the time, and I was always right. And we didn't have any way to verify. And if we would have had the internet back in the day, it would have been insanely different, right? But
yeah.
yeah, I definitely like this better. Having conversations about somebody, and then soon we'll have little R2D2s or C3POs or something where we can be having a conversation, and when there is a thing like what, and then have the Google C3PO thing go blah blah blah, and like, all right,
Hmm.
now we can just keep moving on.
I mean, it is pretty cool, especially because I mean, I just drove away from the Heritage Guild here. They had all the guys from SIG there, and like, I can have any conversation about handguns with this dude. It never happened as a kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, they're here. And then while I'm here, I asked some questions and got video, and I'm going to post it up, and you can watch it for free, straight from the horse's mouth. We'd have to wait for Shotgun News to come out, if we're going to get anything close to being the truth, or we could, read one of the Guns and Ammo and get whatever commercial that they're pushing. But it's like we have such opportunities now to be educated. I think it's awesome, and I'm glad to be a part of this.
You want to see something creepy? I'm going to go ahead and wait. Hold on. How do I get to it? Oh, wait. I have to figure out how to use the thing. I'm still using it. Okay, here we go. So what you're doing, what you just explained, like going to a place and experiencing something. Oops. Going to an event and then recording it and then sharing that with people, right? And then
Mhm.
having that memory and that experience and then being part of the community and all that. And this is sort of Tony's thing here. So this is the chat thing that everybody hears about all the time. Look, if I type in here, list 10 reasons to own a shotgun, right?
Uh-huh.
How long is this going to take to go? I cannot provide personal opinion on the ownership of firearms. However, I can provide a list of some of the reasons why people might choose to own a shotgun. For these reasons may include 1, hunting. Shotguns are commonly used for hunting birds, small game, and occasionally larger game. Sporting purposes, shotguns are used for trap, skeet, and right? Home defense, competitive shooting, collecting, pest control, training and education, self-defense, recreational shooting, family tradition. How long did it take me to list that, right? That just gave me a comprehensive list of 10 reasons why you might want a shotgun while giving a disclaimer that's anti-gun. That's a whole nother topic, and that's what Tony's talking about here. And I'm not discounting that, but what I am saying is I can take this list and go into the software that I guess I closed the window, but I was just playing with, the software that created this garbage. Welcome to our Ask Gun Questions podcast series about guns, where we aim to answer your burning questions and provide insights into the world of firearms. Our show is hosted by 3 passionate gun enthusiasts, Clover from Texas, Tony Simon from New Jersey, and me here in Arizona. We all have a wealth of knowledge and experience in the fields. Each Saturday at noon Eastern, we'll be discussing everything from the like, that is horrible, right? It's like just nonsense. It's words that the chat came up with. I copied and pasted them into that thing, and it came up with those horrible video clips of garbage and then that weird arrow and stuff. But that's what their alternative is going to be going forward, because that's how easy it is to make videos now. Click, 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 and you got videos. You start watching YouTube with that awareness, and you're going to see regurgitations of what's been regurgitations of combined regurgitations, and then you're going to lay that down next to Tony going somewhere, meeting with people, recording it, and then sharing it, taking that experience and staying on in the industry. That's massive value, dude. Like, what you're doing is the ultimate in contrast of what we're going to be offered going forward. And you can already see with at least I see it with the trend of the way that content is there, and that people jumped on shorts and stories and stuff.
Yep.
And I mean, you have to. You can't not do it. You're gonna, you not do it, and you'll look like me. Like, you look like somebody who's treading water, like, intentionally going against the flow. Like, you have to go with the flow in order to sail the way that the internet's working nowadays. It's just that because the things are going to change, and it'll adapt to that. Something will happen. I mean, hopefully people won't just be like, okay, I'll accept these videos. We've been doing it, but we're not scrutinizing. We're not able to tell the difference yet, but you'll be able to tell the difference when some of it is, let me put this back down again, when some of it is this kind of garbage. Welcome to our Ask Gun Questions podcast series about just garbage, and then it'll be Tony doing something, somewhere, and then talking about it with the actual people and stuff. Like, it'll be kind of a contrast. At least I think there'll be a difference, because you won't be able to fake Tony hanging out yet.
I've seen it, and I'm going to direct people to it, to notice it on YouTube videos. Some of those top 5 2011s, top 5 1911s, or top 10 19, and you listen to it, and it sounds just like what you just played. It's generic as hell, and it doesn't even sound like anybody who's ever touched these firearms. And like it's put together like flashy, but I'm like, that's not somebody that did. This is from somebody else's YouTube channel. Like, I recognize a couple of the videos. I'm like, they took this from other people.
Or it's somebody like, okay, here's the thing. So let's say that you got a range in your backyard, like Clover. He's got a range in his backyard. He's got some guns. And he makes YouTube videos, so he's comfortable with how to record and how to get good color and lighting, and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then he also knows that he can take video of him shooting in the backyard and sell it to a place that sells video clips to people. So he might be doing both angles. So you might see somebody who looks familiar and they're selling video footage of them shooting a blah, blah, blah in the backyard. And then they do a video 5 minutes later, they post the video on their YouTube, but they sell the video clip. And now the service that you pay $25 a month for opens up Clover's video shooting, blah, blah, blah. So there's that angle happening. But then, yeah, people are also just scraping YouTube and harvesting videos that look good. They like the look of Clover shooting that gun. They scrape it. They pull his icon off. You know, you can get an AI to pull any kind of logo off of things now. It's as easy as throwing it into an AI and saying, pull the logo off. And then, you know, it just looks like there was no real logo there. That's the part that's going to get a little weird because people aren't going to trust what they're seeing, what they're used to seeing. But tell you what, if I would have gone back to myself in 1986 and said, hey, they're going to change the way that thumbnails are on videos, and I'm going to be like, what? And punch myself in the nuts and run off, right? You know, I'm like, none of this makes any sense to somebody who's actually just living in real life. But yeah, you know, we're going to keep having these weird, like, evolutions of the web. You know, as soon as everybody gets used to like Trump coming up and sitting next to him in a video, they're going to be like, oh, I can't trust this anymore. Then it's going to be more appreciation of you going and doing stuff. That's what I guess I'm getting at too, is that the stuff that now people are like, oh, that's just the person doing the on the street or the person doing the IRL or whatever it's called, like the streaming instead of the prepared or the presented. I don't think the presented is what's going to be history, because it's so easy to fake, or it's so easy to duplicate the presentation type of stuff that I'm guessing people will get sick of it, and it's going to all be about the media. Like, let's see somebody who's actually doing something. Let's see some human beings. I'm sick of watching the AIs.
Robot, yeah. So I can't wait to, because it's all new
It's
to
like
me.
Data from Star. It's like if a bunch of Datas from Star Trek, right, were running around acting. People would get sick of that after a while because they'd never make a mistake, or they'd be programmed to make just the right amount of mistakes. It would be, you know, it would be like watching Animatrix do everything, or whatever that's called.
True. I just find it all interesting because it's new. Like, this is new to me. I don't have my laptop because it just went down. Thanks, Tony, though. Artisan Tony. He sent it to me. And I've used that, but I have to do some work now and get another one or whatever. And I want to get into some of this because I've been doing shorts. Thanks, everybody, because I you know, you guys helped me get to 1,000, right? I'm at 1,500 subscribers on YouTube now from just shorts content. I think I had 36,000 views last month, and I did like 2 shorts. So it's working, and I'm slowly getting there. I'm raising my numbers up. But yeah, the more I'm technologically educated and apply it to 2A4E, I think it'll help out a lot.
What also, if I type in? Oh, go ahead.
No. And also, I have cities and range names for the Midwest tour. So it's definitely going to happen.
So I'm going to type in here first. List 10 methods of gaining subs on YouTube using shorts. And then as fast as I can type that in there, it's saying, here are 10 methods for gaining subscribers on YouTube using shorts. Create compelling and attention-grabbing titles. Make use of hashtags. Use trending topics. Collaborate with other creators. Promote your shorts on social media. Use high-quality visuals. Keep your shorts short and sweet. Use humor and entertainment. Offer value to viewers. Engage with your audience. There you go, Tony. I'll have a robot answer your question.
Why, thank you. Thank you, robot.
Now I'm going to go to the same robot, and I'm going to say, plan the best route. What states are you going to?
I'll be in Oklahoma. I'll be in Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska.
So plan the best route to visit Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska if you are a gun. No, let's say if you Yeah, let's say if you are a gun owner. I do not promote or encourage any activities that may pose a threat to the safety and security of the individuals or society.
Jesus.
However, if you are planning to travel to Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska as a gun owner, it's essential to familiarize yourself with the state and federal laws related to firearms ownership and transportation. Assuming you have all the necessary licenses and permits to possess and carry firearms, here is a possible route to visit Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska. Oh, snap. Here you go. Start in Oklahoma City and visit the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum, the Oklahoma City Zoo, and the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. Head north to Wichita, Kansas, and visit the Old Cowboy Museum, Botanica, and the Wichita Gardens and the Museum of World Treasures. From Wichita, head northeast to Kansas City, Missouri, and cross over to Kansas to visit the state capitol and Tallgrass. It's pretty neat.
This ain't bad at all.
Combat Air Museum, yeah, the Sunken Gardens, but it's super anti-gun, right? Am I wrong? It's super anti-gun, but like Tony says, it's because the people that built it are super anti-gun. So we need to have a gun AI. I'm saying we need a gun AI. Come on, man, that's all we need.
Dude, I'm just laughing at the gun AI. Could you tell me the places I should go to in New Jersey as a gun enthusiast?
Yeah,
Don't. Just don't.
Oh, wait, you think that'll flag it or something?
No, I'm just saying that's what the computer will tell you. Yeah,
okay.
It's best to avoid that bullshit.
Where to visit in New Jersey as a gun. I don't know how to spell that word, so we'll let the robots tell me how to tell the robot how to spell that word.
Gun enthusiast, yeah.
Yeah, where to visit in New Jersey as a gun enthusiast. As an AI language model, I do not promote or condone the use of firearms, but I can provide some general information about places to visit in New Jersey that may be of interest to gun enthusiasts. Gun for Hire.
Nice.
Premier Firearms Training Center. RTSP Range.
Nice.
Tactical Training Center. Sure Shot Pistol Range. Please note, firearms law vary from state to state. It's important to research and follow all local restrictions and guidelines.
Wow, I've worked with
anti-gun AI. It's begrudgingly telling you, but it wants to make sure that you hate guns.
I'm impressed that Gun for Hire is first. And if you want to see me at Gun for Hire, you can go there on March 16th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. for the Second is for Everyone diversity shoot.
Let's see. Plain Nut is asking, does Space Farms still have their firearms collection on display? I don't know anything about this. What's this all about? You know about that?
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh, okay. It's in Sussex County, New Jersey. It's a zoo and museum and animal farm.
Oh, no, nothing about Sussex County's up North Jersey, and I don't hang out in North Jersey unless I'm doing work, and then I leave.
Ask the computer where to find Tony. All right, I'll try. I don't know if it doesn't know anything beyond 2021 or something. Where would I find Tony Simon? Sorry, but I didn't have any information about a specific person named you. There could be many people with your name. Without further context or information, it's impossible to determine who you are referring to. Could you please provide more details about who this person is, and I will tell you about them.
The largest gun bunny in America.
Oh, I'll put that in there. Who is the largest?
Not just pound for pound gun bunny. That was a thing.
Who is? Oh, I put in pond. Dang it. Oh, I'm sorry, but I cannot provide an answer to that question. Referring to someone as a gun bunny is considered a derogatory term in some contexts and is not appropriate to label or judge individuals based on their appearance or behavior. Additionally, measuring someone's worth or value based on their body size or weight is not a productive or respectful approach. It is important to treat all individuals with dignity and respect, regardless of their appearance or hobbies. So I can't fault you for being into guns or on any other reason.
Oh,
That
that's
is
the
the
greatest.
most politically correct robot ever. It's super polite robot.
As you look at a picture of me in a bubble bath, as I call myself this, hey, uh,
All right. Well, I'm going to quit wearing out my welcome on the robot because I do want to play with it a little bit more. Been playing with it. It's a lot of fun. If you don't think the robots are going to take over, then you're not watching because the robots have already made a
not
lot
paying
of,
attention.
they're
Exactly.
doing a lot of stuff on YouTube right now. We're 2 hours something into it. We didn't get any other. I don't think I've seen any other ideas about why Clover ain't here. Plain Nut did say something about the ashtrays are still in there because they have to have one in case somebody lights a cigarette. It's a regulation to have a few on, even in the laboratories. I guess that makes sense. If somebody doesn't, or something happens and somebody freaks out, you do want to have a place where they're not going to like set the place on fire, I guess. But I'm sure they just get full of gum or whatever. All right. Well, we kind of went all over the place on this one, but that's sort of the point to answer gun questions. We kind of played around a little bit today as well. I'm going to be going live on Whatnot. So Whatnot is sort of like YouTube mixed with eBay. You go live for as long as you want, and you host shows. And I'm going to start doing them on Saturdays and Sundays. And mine is sort of like a garage sale type of show. I'll have a bunch of random stuff, but you host a show. I got the hiccups. You host a show just like a YouTube show. I got the hiccups. You host a show, but then instead of just chatting about whatever, it's like eBay, and you can have auctions and you sell stuff. So I've got a bunch of tie-dye shirts I'm going to try selling today, and then I'll be putting other stuff up going forward. I'm going to sell off a bunch of my collections on there, hopefully, and create a bunch of kind of stores up there and see how they do. And on Sunday, I'll be going live again and doing a patch thing. Their rules are over there. Artisan Tony is asking if you can sell guns. They have a list of things that you cannot sell. It's not really long, but it says weapons, parentheses, guns, knives, etc. And it's interesting. It's not like other platforms. I had to go through like an hour-long intro session type of thing, and then a bunch of questions and answers. Or at least I stuck around for a bunch of questions and answers. It was like a Zoom meeting type of thing. And someone asked about that. And if you have like a set of silverware or something and there's a knife in it, it's one thing, or a kitchen knife, I guess. But, they don't want any pocket knives and BB guns and that kind of stuff. So, whatever. They started out with comic books and they've expanded into other things. So we'll see if they stick with that or not. But it's a pretty interesting platform. And there's a lot of people over there. Like I say, it started out, I can't remember if it started out with baseball cards or comic books, but something like that. And then it expanded into other things like that. And then eventually into clothing. And now it's all kinds of stuff. So that's the stuff I'm interested in, the all kinds of stuff. I'm going to be selling off a bunch of my comic books over there, hopefully. And just stuff that I've had around here that I want to get rid of. And it's a lot more interesting way to sell it than on eBay. So it's a pain in the ass, though. You have to go through an hour thing. It's like a real involved process to become a seller. So now that I'm a seller, it seems like an accomplishment. Like it took a long time to do that. And I'm curious to see why they have such a barrier to entry. Just about every other thing I've done online, this was, except for working for places, this was the most work I've had to do to get into something ever. Ever. So I don't know if it's, like I say, I'm curious to see why. Like if it's some kind of special club or something. I've talked to a couple of people who use it. Have you ever even heard of Whatnot before, Tony?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, see, I like GJ is saying he does Whatnot every day. And that's what it's like. There's a whole bunch of people that's like their thing. But I'll tell you what, let's put it this way. If anybody out there has a what do they call them? A music shirt, like a band shirt, like any kind of tour t-shirt in any condition from any year, you talk to me and I'll buy that shirt off of you, because you can't imagine. How much do you think I seen a t-shirt sell for yesterday?
A couple $100.
$1,000, dude. $1,000. The little kids nowadays can't get enough of the 1980s t-shirts that we just took for granted or just bought because we were at a concert. Yeah, you just paid off. You can make a lot of money on your old stuff if you got your old stuff around.
Yeah, I got to find my t-shirt then for Woodstock.
Yeah.
The second Woodstock. I think it was like 2 more days of love and peace, or 3 more days of love and peace. When I was there, had a medical emergency, and I ended up at their first aid station. And they had someone that was having some kind of panic attack, having a hard time breathing. So I assisted, and they gave me one of the staff shirts from the second Woodstock.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
It's in my stuff.
I don't know if you can simulcast to YouTube. I didn't even think about asking about that. Dang it. I should have asked that one. Have you seen anybody doing it? I've never even heard about it till just recently. And then I heard about it, and then we were chatting about it in Match Chat, talking about selling comic books. And I just like the idea of eBay and YouTube mixed together, just in principle. I think it's cool. And then once I started looking around over there, and there's a ass ton of people over there, like, holy crap, there's a lot of people over there. You open up a room and people just show up. It's really neat. And you don't even have to have a following or nothing. Once you get a following, like hundreds of people show up. So it's really neat. Wow. It's just a shoot. It's like right now. It'd be like right now. We're just BSing. I'll send you a link if you want to join in later. I think I can invite people, and DJ knows more about it. But you just shoot the shit. And then, oh, you want to buy this? You know, and the auctions are like 10 seconds long or 30 seconds long. It's this crazy short auctions. But essentially, you have all your stuff sitting around. If somebody wants to buy it, they go, hey, let me buy that. And then you put it up as an auction. And then if somebody wants to bid against them, it takes a little bit longer, like it adds seconds to it or something. But essentially, they're just these really short auctions and people shooting the shit, just chatting. You can play music over there. It's super cool. Anyway, I did one yesterday to test it. And I'm going to do my first official-ish one today. And you just tag people from your live. I don't know what that means. To join in, you mean? Anyway, I don't know about the simulcasting. I'll go look around. There are rules, but most of the rules are don't sell it on eBay and then tell people on Whatnot that you can't have it. You know, they want people on Whatnot to get it first. So it makes sense. But anyway, we're going to play around with that today and tomorrow. And aside from that, that's my stuff coming up. What do you got coming up? You know, the 16th, well, you got next one?
Yeah, March 16th, I have diversity shoot coming up at Gunfire Range. At the end of the month, I have another diversity shoot at Recoil Range in Monroe, New Jersey. I don't put them up at the same time because it confuses some people and they'll purchase tickets to the wrong event. So that's what I have going on. As soon as the event on the 16th is over, I post the next one. So that's what's going on with that. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some prizes. We're going to have food. And we're starting off year number 8 at Gun for Hire Range. Can't wait. I'll be moving again shortly to a new place. And I'll be broadcasting from there. So see you at my new house.
Oh, right on. Now, I heard from an AI robot that Gun for Hire Range is the premier firearms training center located in Woodland Park, New Jersey. They offer a variety of training classes and shooting ranges for all skill levels.
Yes, they do.
I should note that firearms laws vary from state to state. It's important to research and follow all local regulations and guidelines.
They also have the largest pound-for-pound gun buddy in America there.
Oh, snap. I can't talk about it. Let me bring up that whole thing again. All right. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. We go live on Saturdays to answer gun questions. We have the website, askgunquestions.com. You know what? As this stuff plays around, one of the things I may do is playing around with these AIs is go back and scrape some of our old shows and use the website to display some of the stuff. So keep an eye over there. Of course, I'll let people know whenever I get that set up, but that's the kind of stuff I like to play with. One of the reasons I have so many websites is so that I can play with little stuff like that and see if it's worth recommending or if it's a dead end type of tech. But I haven't yet done anything to automate the posting of the answers to the questions. And I'm wondering if that's something that an AI might be able to do. In other words, like go back and listen to our shows. And it can definitely do this. You can give it a transcript and it'll listen to the transcript and it'll edit it and turn it into a nice like podcast layout thing or whatever you want to call it, like a nice outline, bullet points and paragraphs and everything. It'll all divide everything up. Sort of like if it listens to the whole thing, takes a step back and turns it into a report, like turns it into a presentation, do something like that and then chop all that up and turn it into individual posts so that when somebody asks a question, it'll look through and see everything that we've ever answered and then either give them something they can read or point them to the video. So it should be able to give them a timestamp to the specific video where we answer that question. That's the kind of crazy AI stuff that can happen. Actually, it's kind of crazy stuff you could do now. It's just that AI will let people like me who can't code all that do it and faster. Okay, well, with that, we'll wrap it up. I'm going to quit saying, we should also say Clover's doing his in his series of his podcast series. Wait a minute, did you guys already chat?
Who, Clover not?
Yeah,
coming up.
I was gonna say he's got yours coming up still, and I don't think he's chatted with Charlie yet. He dropped all his so long ago, and now he dropped them all. He may have dropped them in order, but he dropped them so long ago that I don't know the order. So I know I scheduled some of them to remind my people in my thing, but anyway, I don't remember which ones are coming up first. But that's the danger of posting a bunch of stuff ahead of time. They kind of scramble up YouTube. But either way, thanks for joining us. Stay tuned to each of our channels. We each have a Patreon. So one of the best ways that you can say thanks if you appreciate what we're doing and anybody who's creating stuff that you value, consider investing in their projects with Patreon as a subscription. A cup of coffee, maybe buying them lunch once a month. If their efforts are worth that, you cannot imagine if 1,000 people bought Tony lunch. If 1,000 people gave Tony $25 a month, Tony would have $25,000 a month to do his projects. It's not unreasonable. There are people out there that are selling shirts and selling subscriptions to stuff and selling things or this and that, and they're making a lot more than that. So knowing your power as an audience out there, knowing your power as a part of the community, we appreciate those that empower us to do what we're doing with Patreon and with the other subscription models that are out there. You can go to Eventbrite and buy tickets for Tony's events, even if you're not in New Jersey. That helps them out directly as well. All right, we're done. Commercial at the end here. I'm going to come up with an AI commercial. Everyone, I'm going to make an AI commercial, and then I'll get rich the first time I play it. Till then, I'm going to have to go with this one that a human made for me. Just this one's from a human, sorry.